This episode is told primarily in flashback form and really gives us a backdrop into the Elric brothers, their past, and how they became like they are today.
What? Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood Episode 2, The First Day.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and alchemists of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and this here is James. We're here to bring you another review on the wonderful, awesome, flashback-heavy tale
of Fullmetal Alchemist
Brotherhood. Now, of course, our last episode was really just the introductory episode. It was kind of laying the groundwork for the main characters, introduced us to the Elric brothers, Alphonse and Edward, and things just kind of obviously left off with them knowing that Alphonse needs to regain his body, and Edward seems to have a full metal arm, so I'm assuming he's going to try to regain his arm, and that's how things left off. This one picks up, and it's told entirely through a flashback. It's the background, it's the backdrop of these two, and just kind of as a quick summary and recap, we find out that their mother died when they were very young, probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old. Yeah. Their father's gone. He's not in the picture, at least right now anyway. And they pretty much had been teaching themselves and reading books, learning about alchemy. And once she was gone, they basically just buried themselves in learning more and more about it so they could learn how to do human transmutation?
Yeah,
human transmutation, which is basically like playing God, bringing back the dead or whatever the case is, right? So we see in this flashback that that's his chair squeaking too, and not my ass barking, by the way. Even though I did have tacos. But anyway, so they, in the flashback we see that they go and they try to go and revive, bring their mother back from the dead, and it looks like Alphonse is just completely torn apart, and then Edward kind of goes, he loses his leg, it looks like, and then kind of goes into this sort of dream limbo type world where this creature, this like shadowy figure that basically says like he's the all-powerful, he's the universe, it's God, it's whatever, right? And then winds up showing him kind of all this knowledge and everything like that. And then at the end of it, after everything's flashed by, is basically like, okay, we've seen enough, and now we got to do the equivalent exchange or whatever. And yeah. Basically then, and winds up, you know, you can't get anything for free. I gave you some information, so I want your leg torn apart. He winds up going and sacrificing, then doing anything to bring his brother back, his younger brother Alphonse, and we find out later on that he loses his arm, but he's able to bring Alphonse back, but not really, it's just his soul, and that's, of course, the soul that's bonded to that suit of armor, which just happened to be laying around in there. So the whole kind of thing is kind of him coming up through the ranks and how they kind of joined, like, the government, and how he's going to become an actual state alchemist, Edward is going to be. And it's just kind of like his trials and tribulations throughout and what happened, you know. But all in all, I thought it was very cool. What were your thoughts initially on just kind of the flashback part, the mother dying, what they did?
Of course, there's definitely a lot to the flashback, and it's a lot of story-driven stuff, basically telling you everything about what happened to Ed and Al, and how Al, of course, lost his body. But I especially like the flashback where it shows Ed actually becoming an alchemist, and his alchemist training, basically, and he transmutes something without a circle, which is untold. And the best part of that is he goes up to the Fuhrer, King Bradley, and he puts a sword to his throat, or spear, whatever the heck it was, and then he's like, you really need to be careful with these, somebody might actually try and assassinate you. And Fuhrer starts laughing for no reason, and Edward's holding up that spear, and it's just cut right in half. He's like,
well, what happened is, and this Fuhrer, this King Bradley, this was the guy that we saw that stopped the ice alchemist, McDougal, at the end of the first episode, the dude that was so fast that you couldn't even see what he did. And it was the same type of thing. He went, and as Edward thought, he got the drop on him, like, haha, mother, you know, I got this spear to your head. He was so fast, so quick, such a beast that he was able to cut the head off the spear before the spear even knew that it was cut. Because then after a couple of seconds, the spear was like, oh shit, and it just fell off. It's so funny. But also that was a good point that you brought up too, and that because as I kind of was doing the recap, I forgot about that. So Edward, part of his deal is that when he kind of went to the other side, right, limbo, whatever you want to call it, and kind of saw all of that, the information, whatever, right, the meaning of life, whatever it was that he saw. He now, normal alchemists have to go and actually draw symbols and signs with chalk or whatever, something, right? And then they can kind of use that magic, conjure up that alchemy, whatever they're doing. he doesn't even have to use the science. He doesn't got to put them on himself, on the ground, anything like that. He's just able to go and bust them out.
Yeah, it's just about to clap it like the clapper light.
And shortly after the incident happened where they tried to bring their mother back and everything else, they wind up, they're found actually by Roy Mustang, I believe it was. Colonel Roy Mustang at the time, this was a few years ago, he was not a colonel, but whatever, he was a sergeant major or something like that. But he was called out, you know, kind of like to investigate what was going on. He finds the two brothers at this auto mail place, and they wind up going and actually replacing his arm. Edwards, well, they did not replace him, but giving him a new arm that's metal, right?
Yeah.
And then we find out too by the end of the episode that all state alchemists, which I'm assuming is pretty much like kind of almost like a CIA, like an undercover, like something like that, right? Yeah. Like now you're in the club. But they're all given like a code name, right? Yeah. And so and that's where the name comes, obviously. Fullmetal Alchemist is his code name due to the arm and whatnot. And then obviously we know Brotherhood because I'm assuming it refers to him and his brother. Or maybe even the Brotherhood of Alchemy, Magic, whatever. I've heard about that before. Yeah. You know, they say Brotherhood or Sisterhood of Witchcraft. And,
originally I thought it was just a brotherhood between, like, I mean, actually when I first saw the commercials and stuff on Toonami, I was like, okay, is there some sort of like brotherhood? But I was like, once I saw it, I was like, oh, it's brotherhood between Ed and Al.
I see. It also could be interpreted as, like, you know, slang for like a gang hanging out, like, yo man, it's the Brotherhood. You know, or maybe even like Assassin's Creed. I believe there was one called Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. You know, nomine patri. What is it? Everything is permitted. I do whatever I want. Some shit like that. He says something like that. Emezio da dottore da France. Anyway, all in all, though, I thought a pretty cool episode, even though it took place. Normally, I'm not a big fan of flashback episodes, but I think in this case, it worked out very well to give you that backdrop because for me, it was gut-wrenching to see these two young kids. Their father's gone. They lose their mother to the disease, some kind of pox, whatever, right? And apparently, you can create alchemy, but you can't cure like the common cold. But hey, we're in the same boat now. We can put men on the moon, but you can't put metal in the microwave, right? Explain that one to me. But anyway, I felt so like bad for them. These kids. I mean, ultimately, you have a younger brother that's 7, almost 8. I mean, even if it was you two guys at 13 and 7, I just couldn't imagine what you would go through. Losing other. I obviously didn't really have much in the way of extended family or anybody else to kind of help take care of them, grandma, whatever, and that little girl and all that shit. But my point is that I felt terrible and thinking, man, what do these kids go through? And this dude lost an arm, gave up his leg for that knowledge, right? Okay, and then wound up giving up his arm for his brother, and he didn't even get back all of his brother. No, he would have had to give up both arms and maybe his wiener. I don't know for that. But he didn't get his whole brother back. He only got the soul of his brother bonded to a piece of, a suit of armor, right? So I think it leaves a lot of potential open for being a really, really cool series, and the story has definitely got me excited because then they this was all told through flashback, but at the beginning and the end, they were on this train heading somewhere, right? And they were talking about this Philosopher's Stone, and that was going to somehow be the key, or they thought would be the key to regaining their bodies, right? Regaining their bodies. But we know that Edward is some next level shit as far as an alchemist because the guy doesn't even have to go and draw the circles and everything like that. So we know that this guy's he's more talented than the average person that can have alchemy.
More talented than the average alchemist.
Yes, exactly. So smarter than the average bear. But anyway, so I think that will probably wrap things up for us over here. Me and Boo Boo are going to go get a picnic basket. And anyway, but that would lead to my episode question. We didn't really discuss this beforehand, but my episode question, I think anyway, would be, what are your thoughts on the brothers Elric and their past? It was nice to see, I thought, them growing up and everything, and just kind of in a brief 20-25 minute flashback episode, kind of encompass everything that happened from that cataclysmic moment when they lost their parent to now, to obviously and Edward going up and coming through the ranks. So that would be my question, though. What are your thoughts on the flashback? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it too long, too short? That sort of thing. Yeah. So, and I would, if you could leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you should think that we deserve it. And subscribe if you haven't done so already.
Also, subscribe to NerdNationGaming.
Yes, which will also be in the description. NerdNationGaming. We're going to be doing a lot of extra stuff on there as well. And with these, we'll probably try. We'll see how they do. If we get a nice, warm, fuzzy reception from, if people care enough. I know that the series has been off, for a few years, but still very cool. Because for you and I, it's a first-time thing. Yeah. and we'll probably try to do a few of these a week as well. So definitely hope everybody enjoys it. And like I said, we look forward to catching y'all in the next one, Nation.